Okay, let's get into the spirit of cricket. Bairstow's dismissal. Now, there is so much to talk about this particular scenario. Yes, he is out with the laws of the game, but the Australians set him up. They talked about it a couple of balls beforehand. Also, Bairstow has been doing it for a lot of the time throughout the last couple of test matches, and it became normalised. Carey was taking the ball behind the stumps and then throwing it off to the fielder as though nothing's happening. The umpires in this scenario, when the stumps were hit, they both weren't looking at the action. The standing umpire was grabbing his cap and had both hands up. The square leg umpire was walking in with his head down, but also acknowledged the umpire out the non-striker's end or the bowler's end. So they both believed that the ball was dead. Then all of a sudden, what's happened? They had to go up to the third umpire. Now for me, going up to the third umpire to see if Bairstow was actually out because they didn't see the action, that's fair enough. But they don't go to the third umpire to decide whether they've called over or not. This is where it gets a little bit unpredictable. So for me, in the spirit of game, Bairstow should have been called back. The umpires should have deliberated a lot more out in the middle. That's the officiating umpires, and decided whether they thought the ball was dead or not. Because Bairstow, he ducked the ball, then scratched the wicket and then walked off. He wasn't taking advantage. But then there's a lot of talk about Bairstow doing it to Labuschagne earlier on in the test match. But the thing here is Labuschagne was outside his crease when he was facing the bowler, and Bairstow threw the ball out the stumps and making Labuschagne get back in his crease. That is fair enough. But when the batsman is in his crease, played the shot, he's balanced, scratches and then moves on as though that's the end of the over. For me, I think the Australians could have been a little bit fairer there and brought him back. But the Australians, they played by the laws of the game. They played by the rules. It was the umpires not taking control. And the other thing with this, the umpires are trying to take control, or should be controlling the game a lot better. If bowlers are getting close to the white line, generally they warn them. Hey, you're getting close to the white line. You're nearly bowling a no ball. But in this particular instance, Bairstow continually left the crease in the manner that he did, quite sharply after the ball went through to the keeper. The umpires could have gone up and said, Mr. Bairstow, you might put yourself in a little bit of trouble there. You're leaving the crease too early before we call over, or before we think the ball is dead. So they've got to keep an eye on the game. The other thing with the spirit of cricket here, and this is leading into the MCC members, is Stuart Broad coming out after the dismissal and having a go at Carey. Now, in the spirit of the game, you've got to accept the umpire's decision. Now, he hasn't accepted the umpire's decision here. And then out the lunch break, he's walking off still having a go at the Australian players. Now, this has caused the crowd to get a little bit vocal, and also the MCC members. But the MCC members, especially those in the long room, should be old enough to realise what's happened, be old enough to realise how special it is to be in a historic venue, and also be old enough and wise enough to understand the behaviours that happen in that long room. And it wasn't acceptable the way that they had to crack out the Australian players. Australian players shouldn't have interacted. I don't know what was said, but still not interacted and just walked off. And there should have been more security there at that stage as well. Security, for me, wasn't on top of it, and it's good to see that action has been taken to the MCC members. So Stuart Broad, with his actions around that decision, it might the ICC might want to look at that and just give him a little bit of a warning next time, because we're in the heat of the battle. The Australians are in the heat of the battle, and they're just making decisions what they feel at that stage. Mind you, I'm looking at all these scenarios as a past player, someone that is looking at how I'd want the game to be played now. If I was actually playing, I'd actually probably do exactly what the Australian players did and take that advantage at that particular time, because the game was getting close. But these are the things. When you have different scenarios and you look at it differently, you see things and you weigh it up a little bit differently. Now, the catches, talking about umpires taking control. Stark, he had control of the ball, and as he's moving along, he's put the ball on the ground. But I felt that a couple of the fingers or fingernails were still underneath the ball, if you look at it that way. So I felt that one was out. But the Steve Smith one, if you look to see someone in control of the ball, was not out. Because he's grabbed the catch, he's hit the ground, but 2 fingers are under the ball, but you could see the ball in the turf of the ground. And then he's brought it back up and he's lost control of the ball out the chest. So that tells me he hasn't got the control of the ball after it had touched the ground. So that's not out. But if he had control and a good firm grip of the ball when he hit the ground and the ball had touched the turf as well with the fingers underneath it, that would have been out. But for me, because he didn't control it as it got to the chest, that's not out. So umpires, ICC and the MCC have to have a look at the way that they're umpiring and the decisions that they're making. And I'll just quickly go back to the run out with Bairstow. It's just come to my mind there now. Andrew McDonald's come out and said that it's the same as a stumping down leg side. No, it's not. The stumping down leg side is the batsman trying to come out of his crease and get to the pitch of the ball, or he's overbalanced. That is a fair dismissal. He's not in control of his actions, whereas Bairstow was in control of his actions. And you can look back at MS Dhoni back in the day as well, bringing back Ian Bell from a run out where both Ian Bell and Morgan, who were batting out at the time, thought it was 4. You can go to the scenario of McCallum running out Muralitharan when Sangakkara was celebrating his 100. Muralitharan put the bat in, turned around to go and celebrate with Sangakkara. McCallum took the stumps off. And that's not in the spirit of the game as well, because they weren't going for the run, for the extra run. They were going to celebrate that particular scenario. Now I want to go to Nathan Lyon, work health and safety. This is a contentious issue, and this is one of the things that we should be talking about rather than Bairstow's dismissal. He has been sent out there by Australian management with an injury where he can't run, he can hardly stand, and England want that wicket. So as soon as you go out to bat, you're facing the fire. Don't blame England for the short pitch barrage that they had out Nathan Lyon. He has stated by his intention to go out to the middle that he is fit to bat. So anything goes. It's Australian management that shouldn't have let him go out there, because if he couldn't move, duck and weave and get caught, get hit in the head, extra damage could have happened. Extra damage could have gone to his calf. It could have ruined his career. And then Cricket Australia would have been up in arms with a court case with the way that they treated Nathan Lyon, with the payout that he would have got. The ICC and cricket boards have to look at this particular rule and say, if a player is injured and he can't take the field anymore, should we have a replacement player? We've got the concussion rule. Now, the concussion rule is a batsman who is trained, who's misjudged the delivery, but he gets another player to take his place because of all the concussion scenarios that are happening around the world. But a player who is injured, where no fault of his own, could have been something with the ground, could have just been a pulled muscle because a series has gone for a long period of time, and they were in that threshold of physicality where they were pushing themselves to the limits, is seen as different. As far as I'm concerned, when a player is injured, it is the same, especially when they have an opportunity to go out and help their team move forward in that particular game and help them get victory. You're putting them under duress, you're putting them under stress, you're putting them in situations which could cause more damage down the track with these people's careers. They're all my thoughts. It's a long vlog. And I want to do more of these with these particular scenarios. I want you to get your questions in and ask me about some trivia questions that are going around at the moment in the world of cricket that I can answer for you. What are your thoughts? Or should I say, what are your thoughts? Get them downstairs. Thanks for joining me on the Hogg's Blog.